All right, y'all. NX Live, and we're welcoming back Brandon. This is a homecoming long overdue, Brandon.
I know it has been a minute since I've been at NX Narwhal NX. The whole name has changed everything. The whole outfit is a little different, but still the same people. Most of the same people, so we're all good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We've definitely there's definitely a Brandon-sized hole in NX right now, but you're on to some really cool stuff here. I think I'm looking forward to talking about it today. Shout out to Edition Addict. Good to see you back, sir.
Yeah,
Chow's
appreciate
in
it.
Chow's in the chat.
Chow, the OG.
Yeah, Chow's.
Chow must be busy these days. I haven't seen him posting a bunch of takes on Twitter about Angular or crazy ideas and things. So he must be down in the weeds or something.
Yeah, I think we've been putting Chow into like remix world, so
Mm.
we may see a bunch of remix stuff from Chow. Puts out so much cool stuff, so it's cool to see everything he does there. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
but yeah, so let's see. We could talk about AnalogJS. I kind of want to give. I think we should give people a chance to maybe filter in a little bit more though. So I don't know. What's something cool we could talk about before we start talking about nerdy tech stuff, Brandon?
We
What's
could
new for you?
well, like at least as far as work wise, I'm working at a company called Open Sauce, which is pretty cool.
Okay.
We focus on highlighting people's contributions in open source, and of course, there's a lot of things that come along with that as far as in kind of helping people get started in contributing and uh, helping people in their open source journey and that sort of thing. So definitely excited about that. And you can get insights on open source projects like Nx and other projects like that, or even like you can pick the projects that you want to follow, and we give you like actionable insights. Or if you're just looking to see what are your projects that are kind of trending, or how are they looking on contributions, those sort of things. Or even if you're looking for projects to get recommended to contribute to,
Mm.
that's another thing. So,
That is actually
um,
so cool. Like if you
yeah.
can figure that out and like really solve that problem. I think we've always talked about this in the past, but open source, I put a lot of value into that. Like there's
Hmm.
something about just putting the stuff out in the commons for everyone to use however they want. Um, I think we're just adding a lot of value and a lot of potential good to humanity there. Not to get too weird about it. Let's check back in chat just to keep me grounded here. Yeah, Ben's putting Chow to work here.
Yeah, yeah, like I said, pretty cool. Yeah, it's more like I said, highlighting people's contributions. For people who want to check it out, I'll drop a link in the chat here, and you can kind of funnel it out from there. Yeah, somebody asked about the. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
talk about that either. I guess people they're on top of things more than I am. So I dropped the link to the chat in the chat there about the open
Oh,
source link,
cool.
so you can go and check that out. Definitely connect your GitHub account and follow your favorite projects. But yeah, the GitHub program was a GitHub Accelerator, which just finished that last week. I think it's been just a week, something like that. But yes, it was Analog got accepted into the GitHub Accelerator program, which was a
Oh shoot, that's
10
awesome,
week
dude.
program. Yep, thanks. It was a 10-week program where they teach you how to, or I say teach, they give you more tools and knowledge about how to turn into a full time open source, or turn a full open source project to like into a full time open source, so you can work on it full time. So
Yeah.
lots of different speakers, and uh, speakers came through a lot of many different interesting topics and things like that. So, and it was like I said, 10 weeks, and it was also came with a $20,000 stipend, also, which was very cool. So all
That
those
ain't
things
bad.
help you, yeah, help you kind of get going with your open source project. And I learned a lot from it. I thought it was a really valuable experience. I actually need to write something up about it, just so I can I call my blog notes to my future self. So I need to write something up about it so it can get out of my brain, and I can move on to kind of working on some of those things. Yeah, it's the site here.
I found it.
Cool.
We actually had a friend of NX now, Ahmed. I don't know if you saw this, Brandon. He's launching an open source education platform
Oh
called
yeah.
Noodle. So
Oh yeah. I did see that.
his stuff just took off. Like he's almost at 10K stars already.
Oh
So
man,
no,
when I saw it, it was like the first day he talked about it. He was like he went to 1,000 stars, and then he like went to 5,000, and now it's
yeah.
even double double
So
that. So
So it was. I don't think this was the actual catalyst, but this all lined up with me and him doing a stream last Saturday on Noodle. So now AnalogJS should be the next 10K star project.
hey, I'll take it. Stars are what I say. Stars are currency in some areas. So
Yeah, they definitely are. Like I feel like that's something we actually haven't been paying too much attention to. Honestly, maybe not as much attention as we should. Let's take a look at analog. I'm
yeah,
curious.
I'm definitely bad about asking for stars and things. Like at least during using my social channels anyway.
Hmm.
Uh, when I do have in the like if you generate a new project, there is a part in there to kind of prompt people to go and start the repo, that sort of thing. And I think that's actually helped analog at least to get to the amount of stars that it has now because I've just been more I guess deliberate about getting asking people to start the repo and kind of support the project in that way. So
Well, you just got one more at least. So
there you
everyone,
go.
let me drop the link in here. This is the right one, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
Even though I can't see it because of your light theme here, but now just
I know, I'm
I'm
so
just
sorry.
kidding. I'm just
Uh,
kidding.
GitHub for me will always be light mode. Everything else for me is dark mode.
Oh really?
Well, except for Excalidraw. I guess a lot of people do like dark mode on that. Sometimes I like it. I switch back and forth. But yeah, at least when we get to VS Code, you should see nice dark theme, right?
Okay. So what's the story with GitHub? Why is GitHub light and everything else dark
I
mode?
don't know. I guess for me, it's GitHub just has the light mode vibes to it. I guess I've never really thought about it too much. I know I've seen other people post it with dark mode, and it just seems off. So I don't know. Let's catch up on chat here though, because oh
Yeah, sure.
dang, Bill's here in the chat.
Hey Bill, what's
I
up?
think
Missed you
Bill.
at
Yeah, go ahead.
missed.
Sorry.
I was gonna say missed Bill at NGConf. He's been a OG there. Met him there previously. So yeah, good to
Yep.
see you.
I remember Bill's course on, I think it was CSS Grid. And I was just like, that was the first part where CSS started to make sense to me. So that was real cool, Bill. Thanks for that. Since then, I've gone to Tailwind, and like the grid knowledge is still relevant, but it's like so much easier. So that makes it nice. Yeah, Bill's going to be back one of these days.
Cool.
So
Yeah,
very
I
cool.
thought somebody else left a message. Shout out to Tyler Morrison. Thanks for the much appreciated on the love there. Uh, always excited to see people who kind of reach out, tell me that I helped them along the way. So appreciate that.
NGRX for sure was in particular, I think, ahead of its time in terms of what y'all saw and what y'all accomplished in terms of type safety in like years before. This was way before people were even considering using TypeScript with React. So, not to dunk on React in any way. I felt like Angular definitely went too soon to TypeScript, but
Yeah, I think
it
that's true.
was, and probably to their detriment, like to their personal detriment, but I think to the good of the broader web in general. So
Yeah, Angular had to somebody had to take the first hit, and Angular kind of leaned into. I think they leaned into TypeScript all the way. I think more than
they
other.
made they made some crazy bets between TypeScript and RxJS, like going as heavy as they did in both of those. I thought for sure like RxJS was going to be the big thing that made them look like they had a crystal ball, but it turned out to be TypeScript really.
Yeah.
RxJS, I'm surprised. I still love RxJS so much. I feel like it's the perfect model for anything reactive, where you can actually be like understand it complete. We could have this whole conversation when it comes to signals because I don't know. The whole signals thing just haven't gone as deep as I have in ArcJS, it's like not that exciting. You know what I mean? I don't
Yeah,
know.
I am interested in your. I know we're off on a tangent here, but yeah, I am
Yeah.
interested in what your thoughts on it are because like you said, it's new. Well, signals aren't new, but they're new in Angular. But we've had something in place for a long time, and now we're trying to introduce something new that's kind of something new that's like promoted by the team itself. So, but
Yeah.
still an adoption curve.
So the interesting thing about Angular, I haven't been in Angular world for a while. So um, I guess I've kind of been hearing from like Chow and all the people at NX that are super excited about it. But the one interesting about signals and their support in Angular seems to be that rendering can hook into it to the point where you don't re-render certain branches of the tree unless there's a new, I don't know even know what you call it. Like I'm not in ArcJS, it would be until you observe an emission or something like
Yeah.
that, right? So, but there, I was trying to find. Let me see if I can find. Ryan Carniato had a video that explained signals, and I was like, okay, this makes sense. Let me see if I can find
Yeah,
it
shout out to Ryan.
offhand.
Whenever somebody mentions Ryan, I always think of two things: signals and the diamond problem that he always that he always talks about.
What's the diamond problem?
Okay, I'm gonna attempt to explain it, but it has to do with like updates that trigger other updates. It's like if you
Hmm.
he uses like Excalidraw to do this a little more clearly, but let's say you have A, B, and C are things that can get updated, and you trigger an update to A, and you trigger or let's say A or B is a derived value of A, and then you update A and B at the same time, then how do you do that efficiently? I'm sure he can explain it a lot better than that, but
Yeah,
yeah. But I have to
yeah,
go back and we'll have to link to that. He talks about it a lot, but have to link back to the stream and to where he gives another explanation of how that actually works.
gotcha. Yeah, I mean, this, when I look at signals, the way that, well, when I look at the signals API, the first thing that strikes out to me is from uh, from my perspective, having worked with ArcJS, they just look like behavior subjects. Like they don't look any different in terms of what they're capable of. They do look a little different in how they're made. When I was looking at him explaining them, oh, did you lose me?
I
Oh
did there
no.
for I did there for a second. I was like,
Oh, we might be getting interesting here, y'all. Sorry.
it's like, is it me or is it him? It's always the it's always the guess.
Yeah. Well, I had the same thought, but yeah. So the API looks exactly like behavior subjects, and the issue that I always encountered, which looks like to be what the diamond problem is kind of talking about that you spoke to, and I need to go into it fully, but when I first got into ArcsJS, I actually had, let me see if I can find the article. I put out an article on how to do tables. And I did this with like Angular Firebase at the time. Maybe that'll hit it. I think it was called like Angular CDK tables. Okay, there it is. Um, so I did. So this is my first foray kind of into ArcJS code, and pretty much what I told people to do in this whole article was just use behavior subjects and don't worry about operators. Like only like you can really like the idea of an operator like switch mapping or concat mapping or anything like that. You can really just mock those by the way, or mimic their behavior by subscribing to various behavior subjects and like nexting inside of those subscriptions to the other behavior subjects, right? Like it's the only problem is it gets really, really weird. I'm trying to find like a good example of this. Yeah, like right here. Like this is essentially what we're doing with signals in my mind, which at the time that I first wrote this was great. And it's great until you hit a certain level of complexity. And as you hit like some threshold, it's like it immediately crescendos into something that's completely unmanageable. And I just lose it. So it was at that point that I was like, okay, let me go deeper into ArcJS, and this is where operators make so much sense and make this kind of stuff so much easier to to visualize, because this is really like, I'm saying there's a heroes data source, and we're going to tie our table data source to that heroes data source, right? I think I'm pretty much just transforming this. It looks like a hash map kind of, and we're going to turn it into an array for the table data source. That's all that we're doing here. So this is my way of tying these things together. So kind of like, so in this case, it's B that's depending on A. Like B is essentially just derived from A. So I could do this, or I could have done like table data source equals this dot heroes. Let's put it on screen so people can follow along. So you could do, oops, a little bit. So we could do a dot subscribe with a b dot next, like that. And this looks like a really imperative way of kind of tying these things together. Let's get rid of C because C's not really here yet. Versus a very declarative way would be down here. We just say B equals a dot pipe, and then you map like X. Well, here it's just X, because we're not actually transforming it in any way. But like, the difference between those two, once you get complex, is actually really, really impactful in my mind, to the point where, like, if you can get a solid mental model with ArcJS, there's a huge investment you got to put in to get to there, but but once you make that investment, I think it's totally worth it. The only thing is, if you're building a team, that's may not be the way you want to go. So in any case, let's check up with the chat here. Looks like Bill was happy to help, but yeah, I'm gone, Bill. I'm sorry. I mean, Tailwind is just CSS. That's part of the reason I like it. So yeah.
Yeah, I dropped the link in the chat also. That this is actually Ryan, Pavel, and Alex from the Angular team were on a Ryan show a while back, and he talked about the diamond problem there. So I knew that was an easy place to reference. So if anybody wants to go back and
I definitely want to check this out. Well, I'll have to do it after the stream because I don't think I'm set up to let people watch the video as we go together. So
yeah, sure.
But yeah, yep. Nx and ArcJS. So there was kind of like a similar trajectory there too. Yeah, Brandon, you've been in both, so you know better than me.
Yeah, I do think NX was, NGRX was around before NX was, but not by much. I'm not sure exactly when NX was started, but I do think they were like close in the amount in that time frame, because I know that we started. Like I said, NX has sponsored NGRX for like years now, so I know that both have kind of like coexisted there for a long time, even though they've kind of went. I would say they went in different directions. NX has moved way on from like just Angular and been able to be more of a general purpose tool. So, but yeah, familiar roots, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I joined in with Narwhal around 2018, at the end of 2018.
Yeah.
So I think I was definitely an early adopter for both of these things. But
yeah, I wouldn't say I was an early adopter, but I definitely got on board before I actually started working at Narwhal. There's always been Narwhal to me before I started working at Narwhal. So yeah, definitely leaned into it after that.
Yeah, it's weird for me too. Like, I just called it Narwhal here. I guess that's because at the time it was called Narwhal when I joined, right? Bill's weighing in on signals here, so I want to check this out. I'm surprised the machinery is as exposed as it is. Sort of expected them to live behind proxy objects or something. Yeah, like if you
yeah, that's a good point.
The screen I was wanting to show here, I couldn't find it, was there's just like a screen that shows like the actual code for it, or I'm not sure if it's the actual code or just like enough to get the right mental model. It's pretty much just functions referencing each other. And so Yeah, like it's not that different from observables at all. Like I think there's the video that Ben Lesh had done years ago now that was just showing, hey, here's how you can code up an observable from scratch. Like it's just functions. They're actually quite similar, I think, but maybe a little different. So yeah, and
Yeah, I
Bill, I
think on
haven't used
the
them at all, so
yeah, I
I don't
think
know.
on the surface they look very similar. Like you said, signal is kind of looks like a behavior subject, but I think the similarities kind of go away pretty quick as far as
Okay.
what the two things are meant for. Because like signals primitive itself is just for synchronous. It's like you're not using it for async communication. Is more for like state synchronization and
Okay.
synchronous state synchronization. So, like all the async stuff that you do, and like on the other hand of that, RxJS can do both because
Yeah.
it knows about things over time, and signals in Angular anyway have no concept of time.
Mm. So
So
you can't debounce a signal, for
right,
example.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Or you'd
So
have to like turn it into an observable in order to debounce
yeah,
it.
yeah,
So
and that's kind of the kind of like the push and pull like in the community. I think right now is that people see signals as like, oh, this is like an observable. It's like, no, it's not
mm,
like an observable. It's like, oh, I want to debounce this thing. Well, no, you can't. It's synchronous, so it's not gonna behave the way you
yeah.
expect. Uh, as opposed to, and that, like I said, if you want to do something async with it, then you kind of have to do this dance of converting the signal to an observable, and then you can do all your RxJS stuff,
Yeah.
and then you can actually convert it back to a signal also. And there's some interop functions that have been exposed by Angular, by the Angular team, that have make this better. But
Hmm.
I think it's still like signals are still in developer preview, so
Yeah.
there's still some, I think, some smoothing over that could be done there to make that a little more seamless. As
Yeah.
far as the being for people to not have to do all this like juggling of signals and observables to try to get that same result as they were doing before, because people's natural inclination is going to be, oh, I'm going to try to do the same thing with signals as I do with RxJS, and it's just not. They're just not the same. So
Yeah.
you're going to just like create spaghetti code everywhere trying to do the same thing in some
Yeah.
cases.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It did it so like if you had a signal, it seems really obvious how you'd make an observable from it.
Yeah.
For sure. So I definitely see the opportunity for interop. Um, yeah, signals are like observables, are like promises. Yeah. So like I actually think there's a lot of things that comes out between observables and promises, and like how like it's always there's all these articles of like observables versus promises. When to use one versus the other. I think they work so well together. I think it's silly too that the HTTP client is still on an observable model. Like that's the
Oh,
promise.
really?
Yeah.
Uh, you know,
I don't even know. I'm
uh,
not even in this world anymore, Brandon. But I'm still
I
salty
got
about
you.
this.
No, I understand. Like yeah, my take is that eventually there will be a there'll be a promise based something. Like I don't know if it's
Promise-based signal. Yeah.
HTTP client. I I wouldn't say signals. I would say
Hmm.
that like it would move to just like a more vanilla promise based request,
Hmm.
and then that way if you don't want to, I think they're. This is just me talking. I'm not talking for the team
Yeah.
because I'm not on the Angular team. I guess I should have said that up front.
Hmm.
But my thought is that because HTTP client is like the first place that you enter like async land, right? For the
Hmm.
most part. So in order to do that with signals, you kind of have to, like I said, do this dance of converting it back to an observable, and then go air handling and all that stuff, and
Yeah.
then to convert it back to a signal, be able to use it, in a good way.
Hmm.
But if we want to push the moment that you have to reach for observables further away, then I think HTTP client is like the first line of defense. Like there has to be some other way to make an HTTP request outside of just using fetch, I guess, because naturally you could just use fetch and like move on with your day. But
Hmm.
like in reality, that's not what Angular developers are expecting. Like they're not expecting to grab fetch off the window and just use it.
Hot take, they should.
But it's yeah, I mean it's less
Yeah.
it's less code you have to ship with Angular.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Well, there was a whole lot of nice things that came with the original HTTP client. I think the fact that it was observable based just like messes with the mental model of what everyone's thinking of when they look at it.
yeah,
But the type safety on it was really ahead of its time. So I'll give it that for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. I think HTTP client was like if they fully embraced like HTTP client was one of the places I think that they like fully embraced
Yeah.
observables in Angular, and you can tell because like there's like no corner cases to where you're like accidentally gonna not use an observable with HTTP client. Like everything's exposed as an observable. You can convert it to a promise and everything,
Hmm.
but yeah, HTTP client was one of the few places I think that was that was
Idiot
all
over
in.
here, then. I mean,
No, I mean, like you said, I like, and this is like I said, this is part of the Angular ecosystem. Like
mhm.
developers expect, they're like fetch, like what is that?
I know.
Like, you mean HTTP client? I use that to make requests. Like yes, but there's a way you can do that without having to bring more Angular code into your code base per se.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think it also just speaks and what's up, Rustlin? Just wanted to say hi before we go on. But I feel like the fact that that developers expect network requests to be as an observable also just speaks to like a fundamental misunderstanding about what observables actually are.
Hmm.
Like I don't know, like a promise is just like a special kind of observable, really, if you want to think about it that way. It's
Hmm.
an observable that you know you have a starting point, and then you have an emission followed by an immediate end, and
Hmm.
that's a promise, and that's what every single uh every single network request is.
What
You
about
can
web?
say,
What about file uploads?
okay, well, I mean, that's fine. Like file uploads, you can make that observables if you want. If you want to say like, give me updates about if you get like updates along the line. But like a GET request or a PUT request or a POST
Yeah.
request or anything like that is it's just it's an observable. Like we said, it has a starting point. That's when you launch the request, and you
Hmm.
have an end point, which is when the requests come back, and then you immediately end. So I don't know. And
No, I agree.
they interop completely well with RxJS. Like you could switch map to a promise. It's not a big
Hmm.
deal. So you could switch map to a fetch request. Like if you really like do that kind of stuff with your like setting up pipes and RxJS and that kind of stuff. So all right, but we've gone on reactivity. You know I like this stuff, Brandon. You led me astray, bro. Let's put all this
Hey,
aside.
I knew you were gonna do it. I put the all I had to do was just had to get it
You
going,
just
and
dangled the carrot, and I went
yep,
right
there you
for it,
go.
bro.
Yeah, Bill did say something in the chat there, and you put it up on the screen too. But Angular HTTP client with fetch
Yeah.
backend is in developer preview. Yeah, that is a thing, but it's still like I said, you're still using HTTP client through an observable though. It's using fetch like internally, but like as far as making a request goes, it's still an observable from the outside, which of course is what the team want. They wanted that seamless experience of being able to move to a different thing, but and the fetch backend helps Angular move into different environments, which kind of leads us into analog. So there you go.
Yeah, for sure.
I gave you a nice underhanded transition there.
Yeah, I got debated completely by Brandon, but he brought us back. Yeah, it's just the addition addict. This is exactly my thing too. I mean, I guess I went to promises real quick when I started getting into to React, not long after I got into Angular. But Angular was my introduction to web development. So I started with TypeScript and then had to like backfill what's the difference between JavaScript and TypeScript. And then same with observables. I started with observables. I had to then backfill promises and then backfill like just the old school like callback kind of syntax and stuff like that. So, and yeah, Ruslin's point here too, there's so much control you have once you get really good at RxJS, but there's also so many like foot guns and like crazy stuff that you don't expect. Like there's so many false summits of thinking you know RxJS when you don't. So, yeah, interceptors, I feel like interceptors. Okay, hot take here too, but interceptors were a mistake. Like,
Oh man, you're just flying
okay.
all over the place.
You don't want extra dimensions to this stuff. You want one dimension. Let's stick with functions. If you want something where you're going to like always add in headers or something like that, use a utility function. Like so people can see it all right there. You don't want people like having to search through the entire code base to figure out how a header is getting added to a request. So
I see. You
yeah.
want less magic, more explicitness, huh?
I know we're regressing to Mr. Tuber's take here, but I don't know. Transfer say I don't know what that is. Do you know what this is, Brandon? What's up, Robin? By the way, welcome.
Hey, Robin. Robin is also on the analog team. Shout out to him and
Yep. Oh,
Marco.
I see Mark in here too. Mark's he's one of our new guys from at NX. So what's
Okay,
up,
cool.
Mark? So but yeah, what do you know transfer state? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
So transfer state is the Angular service that helps you like bridge the gap between server side rendering and client side hydration.
Okay, so stuff
Yeah.
I don't know anything about, but stuff you do, I'm betting from working with Analog, right?
Yeah. So if you're, yeah, we've kind of been like knee deep in this stuff. Uh,
We haven't even started.
in the stream, we haven't even got it going yet. This is
Yeah, I
all
know.
the
This is just
preamble
degrading
stuff.
into madness right now. It all
But yeah,
started with Elwood.
if you're using transfer state, then most likely you're using SSR, and then you want to like the primary use case is you make an HTTP client request during server side rendering. You don't want to make that same request when the app is initially loaded in the browser. So transfer
Okay.
state pushes that data over or serializes that data, puts it in the HTML. Then the client side, when it's hydrated, picks that data up and loads that data for you instead of making a fresh request.
Okay, cool. So it's like I know with Next.js you have like this sort of SSG that's like
Yeah.
we're going to send over HTML plus JSON, and
Yeah.
we're going to
Yeah.
build stuff together from there. So
Yeah.
that's
Pretty much. Yeah. Pretty much that.
yeah. So me neither, Rustlin. So don't worry. And yeah, we got Abel. I want to just say hi. Abel, haven't seen you here yet, so welcome to the stream, sir. Nice to have you.
Yep. Yep.
Den DP's back here too. Used observables
us-
back in the days of
the
Knockout
usual.
JS. I don't know Knockout JS. Promises had been invented at that time. Did observables predate promises? I know promises came in 2015 with ES5, the same one that had like let and const. So that's when promises hit.
That's a good question.
I'm curious because I know
don't know
ArcJS
the
went way
answer.
back. It looked a little bit different because it was like rather than having operators that were piped, you would chain them, right?
Yeah.
Instead of like
This
ArcJS
is
4.
yeah. I'm gonna digress here again, but one of the reasons like that RxJS kind of stuck with me is because I did like C# development way back in the day,
You're
and
right.
there was that library called Link, where you could like chain operators and map and filter and all this kind of stuff in C#.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that kind of bridged like my mental model of how observables and operators worked, because Link was very similar to that, and I had
Right.
already like been down that path. So
Yeah. Well, Link's like that's where you like inline SQL kind of
yeah,
DDL,
it was sort of, yeah, you could
DSL.
do things with
Yeah.
that, yeah, that sort of thing
Yeah.
too. So yeah, but this was
Yeah.
like way back, like years ago
Yeah.
when I was using that. So
Observables after processes. I'm not sure, Eugene. I'm betting RxJS is actually before. Like
you
some
think?
early version of RxJS. Should we look it up? Like,
Sure. I think
let's just check.
the ReactiveX probably maybe was around that same time, but I'm going to say
No,
that promises were probably before observables. They just maybe they just weren't in the spec. Uh,
We only go back to ArcGIS only goes back to 5, but there was definitely stuff in like 4. I don't know what. Maybe is there something like Reactive X
yeah,
that predated it?
yeah.
Reactive X.
ReactiveX was out before RxJS itself,
Mm-hmm.
so um, it goes
Did,
back. Yeah, it goes back even further than that. Like Rx Java, all that, all those
yeah,
different libraries that existed off of
because I
that.
mean, 2015. That's 8 years ago. That's when Promises come out. I'm pretty
Hmm.
sure. ES5 Promises. Is that? Am I remembering right? ES6 is Promises.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're probably
Um,
going down
when
memory
ES6.
lane.
I know. 2015. I told you. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure some version of observables predated actual promises. So,
Interesting.
so yeah, we'll see. I'll look it up later. But yeah, Bill Odom. Promises existed before JavaScript. Okay, interesting take, Bill. We're not talking about the promises you made. Yeah, future. Yeah, yeah. I get it. I get it. That makes sense. And yeah. Okay. Uh, observables came from the reactive X stuff and all that stuff. I actually interestingly, Primogen, from what I understand, was on the team that was working on RxJS at Netflix for a while, like before Ben Lesh kind of came in and took over.
Oh, really?
So that's pretty cool. I really want to hear him talk about that at some point. So all
I
right.
don't think he's going to talk about it in a positive way, but
I don't think so, no.
that's a story for a different day.
Yeah. Okay, so AnalogJS. Let's focus in. We've got a job to do here, Brandon. We gotta
There you
sell
go.
some stars. We gotta make some stars here on for Brandon. Let me just throw up the where did that link go? Here it is. All right. So everyone here, go star AnalogJS. We gotta get it trending just like we did Noodle. But
Hey, there you go.
so my mental model for AnalogJS is Next.js with Angular.
Yep,
Pardon my typing.
that's one way to put it.
Okay. How would you put it, Brandon? I want to hear from the source.
My current pitch is okay. So I have two current pitches. One is similar to that. One is the AnalogJS is the meta framework for building websites and applications with Angular. So, like at its core, by definition, Analog is a meta framework that builds on top of Angular. The goal of Analog is to help you build and ship applications and websites faster with Angular. So that's like the current pitch that we have, like even on the GitHub repo, build and ship applications and websites faster with Angular. So if you're, like I said, Angular has been always like kind of in like the enterprise space and kind of locked away behind those kind of environments. But I think the evolution of Angular lets it kind of scale down also
Yeah.
for other things that may not. You don't have to be at Google scale to be able to use Angular. So or attempting to be at Google scale. So
Right.
and Analog is like an evolution of that.
Yeah. Great question here from Ruslan. There's definitely some other attempts here to build other meta frameworks on top of Angular. I'm trying to remember the name of the one that Frosty was working on there. Do you remember this, Brandon?
Oh, are you talking about Scully?
Yes, was
Yeah.
Scully maybe wasn't so much a framework as much as it was just a way of taking an app and
Yeah.
adding server-side rendering to it, I guess. Which I kind of like the mental model of that, to be honest. But
Yeah, Scully's like I think official pitch is like build static sites with Angular. So it had like a more singular focus. Like everything was about you take an app, Angular app, you run it through Scully and it pre-renders all the pages and that was kind of the end of it there. You could hook it into CMS or hook it into a blog, hook it into your blog, CMS, those things like that. But if you have an Angular app you want to kind of ship with as a static site, then you could use Scully for that.
okay,
And
cool.
yeah, so there's
That,
that, and then there's like Angular Universal, which is like the other end of the spectrum that has like a little bit of support for everything. server-side rendering, static site generation, but it's more like I say general purpose, right? It's not
Yeah.
like tailored to kind of static sites or thing like that. So analog is kind of like in the yeah. Scully is like Gatsby.
I've never done Gatsby, so
Yeah,
I don't
and
know. But to me, like the really cool thing about Scully, that what it did that I liked was it made server side rendering or static site generation a feature
yeah,
to add to your app, as opposed to rewriting your app.
hmm
The execution and the delivery of that were just not there. I felt like so no one really went for it. But like the part of me would really like something like that for React. Like I don't necessarily want to rewrite an application in order to have server side rendering or static site generation. But I guess the argument there would be, if you're using Next.js, you can reuse most of that stuff,
yeah,
and you'll be okay.
yeah.
So
If you're taking a client side React app that's primarily client side in React, you will there are some things you're going to have to work around to be able to like server side render it properly. And of course, like Next.js and Remix and other things kind of handle a lot of that for you if
right,
you lean into their kind of lean into their ecosystems. But you can do it with just a vanilla React and like Vite project too. So
hmm
uh, you just have to be, like I said, mindful of how you're, like I said, making the transition. We kind of talked about transfer state, things like that.
right.
When window not being available, those sort of things during server side rendering. So it's definitely possible to do.
That's really interesting. All right. So I am curious about, like, what about AnalogJS makes it a meta framework? Um,
Cool. So there are, and in my definition, there are a few things that features that Analog has that kind of makes it a meta framework. The biggest one is like file-based routing. Everybody, if you're familiar with Angular, you know this is file, and I'll preface this with it's file-based routing on top of the Angular router. So if you're familiar with Angular router, you know you have to app register the router in your app. You have to kind of configure everything. You want nested routes, layouts, those sort of things. You have to configure all those things yourself. So Analog does the same thing, but uses the file system based routing. So you can create folders and pages that will turn into your route configuration, and like things like nested layouts and dynamic routes and cha- po- parent child routes. All those things are still there.
yeah.
It's driven by an Angular router under the hood, but we can determine based on the layout of your file system in the pages directory to generate the right combination of routes for that. So
Okay.
that's like one of the first features.
Okay.
So yeah, I said feel free to pause me if I'm or tell me to pause if I'm going too fast. But yeah, the second one is and we talked about this also. It's like server side rendering and static site generation. Like I said, Next.js, one of these things there's like server first. I think that's probably a good way to put it. Like if you're building you spin up a new Next.js app, and even more today with like the app router, but you're like in a server first land. So you're server side rendering your app, and then if you want to produce a static site, produce static pages, pre-render pages as part of static site generation, then you can do that too. But
Cool.
as opposed to just shipping a client app, or like shipping a client and a server app these days. If you choose to do that, it'll let you do both. But that's another thing that you would do with analog. That's like I figure that's part of a meta framework.
Cool.
Another thing is API routes. In Angular, Angular ecosystem, the big thing we use is Nest.js. So usually, if you have an Angular app, you have Nest.js, a Nest.js app along with it, or if you want to be really bare bones, maybe an Express app or something like that. So yeah, you're basically going full stack out of the box that you're going to need. So API
Yeah.
routes let you kind of be full stack without having to bring in. It's a lot like lightweight full stack without having to bring in Nest.js in the beginning or that sort of thing. So you can get a good ways with just API routes built in. And like I said, Next.js has this. Remix has support for this. Even Astro has support for like API routes and things like that. So just something similar there.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like for what you said, these two things sound like features for a front end application. But when you mentioned API routes, then I'm like, okay, now it's making more sense as a meta framework. So
Yeah, and the other, yeah, hybrid SSR, SSG, file-based routing, server-side rendering. I believe those are the main. Good, because I kind of lumped SSR and SSG together, but you could have
yeah,
those as two separate things. But
so
those are
one
like the
of
main
the
three things.
yeah, I guess this kind of ties into SSR and SSG, but I feel like one of the things that Next brings you to is a kind of standardized way of data fetching. Um, so so yeah, I guess we'll see this in action. But yeah, thanks for that though, like explaining what it is. How do we make one?
So to the there's two ways you can create an analog app today.
Okay.
Uh, we can do it the vanilla way, or we can do it the NX way. So
Ooh, okay.
because we do have support for that too.
Okay. Let's see. Let me bring up a terminal here. Is that I'm assuming that we just run a script of some kind?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Let me bring a terminal up. Go. That's y'all can see that, right?
I cannot see that. Maybe,
That's a joke. That's
but
my native stuff. This is how I get
I'm an
to.
old man, so I may not be able to squint hard enough to see that.
Yeah. Oh, Yuri's over here now. What's up, Yuri?
Hey Yuri, what's up? Oh, me and
Yep.
Yuri actually finally met in person at NGConf.
Oh, really?
This past NGConf, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. Me and Yuri have still not met in person. We
Oh
work
man,
together a lot.
I'm ahead of you.
I know. There you go. Okay. But yeah. So how do we get started here? Is it like MPX? Guessing.
Yes, yeah. So if we, well, no, it's not create analog app. We could do npx if we're doing it through in NX workspace.
Okay.
You
Yeah,
can
let's go the
do
NX route.
npx create dash nx dash workspace. At latest, the usual thing there, and then you can have a preset of at analog js slash platform at latest. Just make sure that we.
Did I do it right? I've been working on my
Yes.
typing, but I'm still
Yeah, we'll
terrible
see.
at it.
We get to do this live, so we'll see what version. If your no version is one that we're expecting, so we'll see.
Okay, let's try it. Yes.
So yeah, we're gonna go through that.
I didn't know we added a patch to 16.5 yet, so that'll be cool. So I was thinking, so there's two different things we could do here. A blog, but I feel like that's too much, or a Pokedex. Which do you prefer, Brandon?
You're gonna have to tell me what a Pokedex is, or how involved that would be. So
It's not very.
not
So I
very okay.
did here's my little example app. So this was one I did on Next.js. We have a video out on this if anyone wants to see. I don't have the link on it on me right now, but it's if you go to our YouTube channel, this is on there. But pretty much what we build is this. You can click into, like, these are the Pokemon are like these little animals that you make fight each other to the death, Brandon.
I
Pretty
see.
cool. So we're just like we just have different like each one of these has its own route, and when we click on them we can see all of their information pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah, yeah. Let's do that.
Okay, and there's a nice API for it too, so that's why I like to use it as an example. All right, so we'll say Pokedex. Yes, I always want NX Cloud.
Yes, you want NX Cloud, and now you have to do more npm installs now.
Yeah, exactly. Look at this. Interesting story too. Me and Chow haven't met in person.
What? I'm
So
ahead. I'm ahead of you on that too.
I know.
I met Chow a couple of times. We met at All Things Open last year, and then at NGConf again this year. So we're BFFs now.
Nice. Yep. So
No,
this remote asynchronous culture that
yeah,
Victor's always going for. So it's fun. But yeah, we've got NXConf in NYC in October. So hopefully I'll fill in all of the gaps of meeting people in person.
yeah.
Yeah, what happened to the CSS? We don't do that here, Russell.
I know if we're gonna get into CSS land, we're gonna be here for a while. So,
Yeah,
well, I'm just gonna lean on you for the
you, you
CSS part.
you may
So,
not like it, but this is what true uh, prime CSS looks like right here.
mm-hmm.
Look at this, perfectly accessible. Why? Who would need anything else? But are they on the wall? Yeah. So in our last house, we had all the pictures of everyone, selfies with everyone at NX on the wall. But I was missing a few, right? Like Yuri and Chow and a few others. So,
Mm-hmm.
oh, it's in September now. Okay, not bad. I guess I gotta make sure
just
I got
point
that fixed.
point them to nx.dev/conf, and then they can get the details straight from the conference page instead of us having to use our brains and
Yeah,
memories for
yeah.
that.
My brain's not good, so that's why I have these machines here. So, yeah. Okay, let's get back to it though. We're on the Pokedex. What name would you like to use for your analog app?
Yeah, you could
Same
just
thing, right?
yeah, you can just name. Well, the first one is like the workspace folder, and then we give you the option to customize the name of
Okay.
the actual app. So yeah, you can put Pokedex app or just my app or whatever, however you choose to put there.
Okay.
I
Let's
can't
just
see
call
what
it
you're
app.
putting. I can't see what you're putting there anyway because of
Oh
the
shoot!
thing.
Get out of here, Chow. Come on,
There you
man.
go. Yeah, app is fine.
Cool. Let's call it app. Oops. Dang it, Chow. I pressed enter and Chow is still focused.
He refuses to not be shown on screen.
Chow will not quit. Tell you. Okay. I like this. One thing I would love for you to do, Brandon. Have you seen what the T3 stack does?
Yes, I've ran it a couple of times, but it's been a while.
Have you ever tried to say no when it asks you if you want to add TypeScript?
Yes, I did, just for fun.
So the T3 stack, if you say no to TypeScript, it says wrong choice. Here's TypeScript anyways.
Well, yeah, it would be funny to do that in analog also, but you can't choose JavaScript for Angular anyway, so it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
not even an option.
Well, I mean, you can still ask the question just to
Yeah.
just to mess with people a little bit. But I would say I'd do it for Tailwind. Like
Oh, okay.
anyone says no, like if Bill's in here trying to use analog without Tailwind, just tell him get out of here. Okay, TRPC. Okay, this piece is really interesting to me. Should we say yes or no to this, Brandon? I'll let you decide. I'm a big
Yeah, I
fan
would
of
say
TRPC.
yeah, I would say no to this one just for
Okay.
the sake of what we're going to build. But yes, TRPC is definitely an option that you can choose when generating a new uh, analog app with the NX preset, or if you're generating within an existing NX workspace, you do have that option there. So if you a big fan of TRPC, which Robin is on the team, then you have that option to generate there, which he has a whole Spartan stack and everything that we've talked about also, or at least I've talked about on Twitter and everything. So definitely check that out too. Give that project a star, as
Yeah.
well as the people who are giving Analog a star.
Spartan is such a good name. Like it just works. So
Yep.
yeah. Cool. But yeah, let's hit false here. We should have just been doing this while we were talking about it.
Hey,
That's all
it
right.
just gives us more time to reminisce about people we've met or haven't met at NX and things. Because I did meet some new people at NX. I was at NGConf. I met some of the NGConf. I can't remember his name because I'm terrible with names. And then I was at Reactathon a few months ago, and I met someone else from the NX team.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to look it up here because maybe the fancy about page is still there, and I do want to get people's names right. Let's see.
I think we kept that up.
Yes, it's still here. Eric was one person I met at Reactathon, I believe, and
Okay. Eric's our new sales guy here, heading up that stuff. So Eric's real cool. I like him. What's
Yes.
up,
And there
Eric? If you're
was
watching,
and there was another person. Darn it. Oh, Jimmy. That's who it was. Jimmy
Jimmy.
was. I
Yeah,
met Jimmy at NGConf, so
cool,
didn't
cool.
want to leave them out. And I may have met someone else, but I
Ryan, did you meet Ryan there? He was there too. He's another sales guy we
uh
just brought on.
maybe. You know how NGConf is. It's like a whirlwind. You barely uh, know who you're who you are at NGConf with,
Okay.
with all the people that
You
you
make it sound like a cult, man.
no, I'm just saying like there's so many like it's the great part about going to the conference and everything. You get to meet like a whole bunch of people and then be like emotionally exhausted at the end of the day. Well,
Hmm.
at least for me. So, but that's just me. So,
Yeah,
uh I have to decompress at times.
yeah. Well, it is taking me a lot longer than I thought to fetch Prettier here, but
It's working.
there you go.
There we go. Now we're getting to the NX Cloud part. So okay, so there we go.
Oh, all right.
Okay, now we
We're
got
gonna
our
leave that workspace unclaimed for now. But what would do CD into the Pokedex?
yes, we can do that. And
I want to make sure. Is this the right one?
yeah,
Yeah.
that should be it. Yeah, we got the app folder there. Package JSON. Yep, we got Vite
Okay. I was just worried I might
and
have had something else called like Pokedex here, but okay.
Angular stuff in there.
Yeah. Um,
Cool.
so there's our app. So our app, this is like sort of our standalone kind of setup, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is NX. Yeah, we do generate a standalone NX project here. So now I think about it, we probably should have gave it because we got like app source app now, but we're just gonna roll with it as is. So uh, if you have to say it's not a cult, it might be a cult. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm not
This
in
is what we
charge.
get for doing an Angular stream again.
I'm
God
not in
dang.
charge of the. I'm not in charge of the cult, so I can't tell you what to think.
Yeah.
But yeah, typical Angular setup here for the most part.
Here's the
Uh,
things that are standing out to me right away. This
mhm.
directory and this folder, or this
Yes.
file rather.
Yep.
What's going
So
on? Okay, so this is one of those API routes you were talking about.
yeah, API routes. So that will give you, like I said, /API endpoint. You can create /API endpoints out of the box there without having to reach for anything there. And then we have the so there's a kind of a few things here. There's the Vite config. So I didn't mention this up
Oh
front, but
yeah, you got to add
analog
this to the list. This is
is
not a numbered one, right? But this is like
no, yeah. It's like
like
the rest of the web is like basically using Vite, and Angular or Analog is powered by Vite also, which I really like because I think
mhm.
it has opened up a lot of things for Angular, just like it has for a lot of other ecosystems like Astro. And if you basically drop a bucket on a meta framework, they're probably using Vite, with it probably right with the exception of Next.js. So
Yeah. Cool. Like, okay, can we talk about Vite real quick? Because
yeah,
I'm
sure.
not sure what all this entails. My mental model for Vite before was I always thought it was the bundler for Vue. Like I thought that's why it's called Vite. They were trying to make
Yeah.
it match up with the V's and the views. I thought it was just like wrapping roll up at the end of the day to
It
be
does
most as
use
a bundler,
Yeah,
bundling
it
stuff.
does use rollup for bundling. So it's a few things. It's like an opinionated setup for rollup because it does use rollup
Okay.
underneath, like rollups like plugin transform model.
Hmm.
So it's a few things. It's rollup under the hood. It also uses ES build under the hood for like transpiling TypeScript because that's a lot faster than just using like the
Gotcha.
TypeScript compiler.
Okay, before you go on, my mental model is Rollup was using ES Build, and that's how Vite was using ES Build. Is that right or is that wrong?
No, that is not correct.
Okay,
It
thank you.
uses it uses ES build as part of its build pipeline.
Okay,
Rollup is part of it also, but it's not. They don't depend on each other. They could switch out ES build for something else if they wanted to, and they've talked about maybe using SWC at some point for
okay.
the transpilation.
Oh, neat.
But ES build is just like a part of the stack.
Got it.
But it is like rollup is like the whole rollup plugin model there. Like that's like foundational part of what Vite is.
Okay, so at the end of the day, Vite is like this opinionated way of fusing these tools together to give you a unique experience that is Vite. Is that
Yeah,
fair to say?
yeah. One of
Okay.
the one of the biggest things that Vite offers is HMR support. So what depending on what your opinion of HMR is,
I don't like it.
see there you go. So Vite really leans into HMR support. So if you're not familiar with what HMR is, it's a hot module replacement that you can use to. Hey man,
We're
you're
having fun.
supposed to be. HMR allows you to make changes to files that you're developing with without having to like hard refresh the browser every time.
Yeah.
So it looks more seamless and faster. It feels faster if you're using HMR. Analog does not use HMR in particular, but it is one of the big features that Vite has, and
Yeah.
it just Analog needs more support kind of in the Angular space to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But it is a good feature when it works for the people who use it. So
Yep. Yeah. Well, to Mr. Tuba's point, like I get it. Like you want to go fast. You want things to move. I don't know. For me, HMR just like lies to you. It lies to you about like that. It lets you think that you're in a reachable state when you're not. And I've hit that too
yeah,
many times to be like to think that helps.
well
I've also
you're doing the same thing with like fast refresh in Next.js. Like
okay. Yeah. I
it's
mean,
swapping things out in and hopefully a seamless way that you don't notice.
mhm.
So you're not feeling like I said the page refresh hit every time you make a change. But yeah, it does have its drawbacks if it doesn't like when it works it's great. When it doesn't work, then you're like where like you said, you're like kind of in this indeterminate
I feel
state of
betrayed
where your
sometimes.
app
Yeah.
is. And the only saving thing is to like hard refresh at
Yeah.
that point is to like reset everything. So
Yeah. This is a Zach take. Like I think most folks prefer HMR. So keep that in mind, y'all, while you're watching this. But I'm leaving this in here for now. Okay, but we've got Vite. I'm guessing since this is NX, we can just do NX serve here. Yeah.
yes, you can do NX Serve app, I believe. Oh
Oh, I
yeah,
see.
gotcha. Now see, okay,
Great.
I'm gonna throw this one in here. We don't have. You can set a default project with NX, but uh, it's not the same way it used to be, and this bites me
Eh,
periodically.
you can still do it the old way. Like it's
Yeah, so I think
deprecated, but
it's
I'm like,
there. You go.
whatever, Victor.
It's still there, and I like to just NX serve and having a default project. Uh, but yes, that is the thing that gets you along the way. So
Yeah, I wonder if it's still deprecated. I think we may have
yeah, I think
undeprecated
it
it.
is. I think to my knowledge, there's like an environment variable you can set now to set a default project. But
Okay. Yeah,
like I said,
I did
that's an
see
extra
that.
thing you have to do.
Yeah, Lars actually, one of our NX champions, Lars, put out a whole article on this. And I was like, okay, that's cool. But then I was like, oh, the default project here in NX JSON still works.
Yeah,
So that's
it's
what I do.
it's like it still works, but they're like, stop using that. But I'm like, I don't want to, so
Yes.
I'm
Well,
gonna put it
Craigery's in
there.
here. I think Craigery would know. Craigery, is this still deprecated? Can you let us know? Uh,
I'm gonna keep using it until they take it away.
I
So
know. They can pry it from my cold, dead hands.
because it's not
But
just it's not just NX serve, right? It's like NX build, NX test. Like if you got like a
yeah.
single project, standalone
Yeah,
project,
yeah. So
standalone project,
maybe
it should
since
be in
you've
there.
left, Brandon, like I think 100% for any standalone, we should just set the default app because we know what the default app is when you do a standalone setup.
Yeah,
But like since you've left, like there's so much stuff that's happened with NX that I love. Like so much
yeah,
stuff has gone to be more generic. Like it doesn't matter if it's called serve or build or test. Like those are completely arbitrary. It's just whatever you want to set up inside of your project JSON file. I can put
yeah,
whatever I
for
want
sure,
here. That's
for
there.
sure. Yeah,
And these
that is another thing about analog that people may not know. Like basically half the stack is is NX underneath too. So we're like two steps away from just being like a full on NX uh,
oh,
project at this point.
So Yuri says standalone, already works without the default app, but not for your standalone, Brandon. So go fix that.
Oh man. Okay, I must need to. Maybe there's something we need to call in the preset to set that up or something. So
Yes, yes. Okay, so this is what we're supposed to do: set NX default project in .env.
there you go.
That would work, but the language server is definitely not letting us know this is deprecated. So I
I'm
don't know.
gonna we'll see what we can do on our side because I do like the experience of just being able. If we can set it like during the preset step, then that would be like my preferred approach to just set it up for them when they create a new app and then it's just there for you to use.
Yeah, yeah. So one thing that Gregory is mentioning here
Uh-oh.
um, is this. Well, first of all,
Project
shout out to
JSON.
Lars. What's up, Lars Jepson? Nice to see you here. But yeah, there's the project JSON being inside of the source directory. Is there one inside source? That's not inside source. That's inside of the app.
No,
That
no, it's
makes
just
sense.
inside the app. Yeah, like I
Yeah,
said,
that's
I think
fine.
this the name we chose a bad name for the app because it's like app source app, so maybe it thinks
Hmm.
it's in there, but it's like app is still the top level thing.
Oh, we might have messed things up there. App source app. There
There
we
you
go.
go.
That's not
Everybody's just
confusing.
gonna spend the whole time watching the video like, why are there two app folders?
I
Like,
know.
ignore that. If you're listening to the recording, people, ignore the top level app folder. It's just the one we chose.
Okay, so one thing I want to try here, first thing I guess is just seeing the Vite stuff in play. So we'll just say hi inside of our template. And then that's that signature Vite stuff where it doesn't even tell you has anything changed.
Well, I think you have to have you probably haven't opened it in the browser yet, so it
Oh,
hasn't
okay. Let's go.
loaded
Let's
any.
find one of my browsers here.
There you go.
View. Why is it? Chrome is messing up now. Hang on. Let me
That's
get a technical
hey, but
difficulties.
we at least got the app preset and everything run with no problem. So that's half the battle there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I got it back. Let's see.
Okay.
There we go. All right, so there's our Pokedex. This is the bad Pokedex. We want the cool Pokedex on 4200.
Hey, there you
Ooh,
go.
this is nice, Brandon. I like this. There's my garbage up there. That looks like some proper styling up top.
There you
Don't know
go.
what you're doing in here, but
Once
let's go.
again,
So
shout out to Robin for putting this page together because I did not do this.
100%. You need to take this and turn this into a star, or put one next to it that says star because this
Good point.
project needs more stars for sure.
There you go.
So,
Yeah, I will throw that plug out there. If you're using NX already, you can drop an analog project within an NX existing NX workspace pretty easily. So, and we have directions on the analog docs on how to do that too.
yeah. Okay, I'm going to take a side quest again here. Sorry, I know
Yeah,
this
sure.
is like the most meandering stream we've done, but
Hey,
I'm digging it.
we got the project up and running, so I think
This
we're
is what we
already
have. Oh yeah,
we're
yeah,
already
that's true.
golden.
But this is what we get from having this rapport from all the streams we've done in the past years. So yeah, we're just reaping the benefits. But one of the big things I wanted to ask you on the stream, would you consider making your we use create NX workspace? What's the one you normally use? If we go back to our terminal here, where that terminal go?
Yeah, so the normal one is you can use in package manager of choice, but npm create analog at latest. It'd be npm instead of npx, or you can use
Okay.
npx also, but npm is what I normally use. Yeah, npx create analog at latest. Yep, there you go.
Okay. So my big question to you: would you consider having this use NX using the new features that we have to just
Are you talking about the new package based
create
stuff?
package generator that will let
Oh
you do
yes.
this, where you can create any of your own script that you want, but
Oh
have
yes,
it
thank
just
you. Thank you for the underhanded pitch, Zach. We have an open issue about this I actually opened an RFC about this in our GitHub repo. So if you want to browse over there, maybe we can take a
okay,
look at
sure,
that.
yeah.
Take a look at that really quick.
Now these things are open.
Yeah. So if you go to issues, I should pin this by the way, because it's fairly new. There you go. RFC, create, use NX for create analog package. So yes, today we're using like two separate ways to create an analog application. The one way is like a standard Angular CLI setup that gives you Angular JSON and all that basically a vanilla setup. And then we have we have the preset that you can use with an NX workspace we have the preset for an NX workspace, and then we have the app generator if you already have an NX workspace set up. So naturally, we're like maintaining two systems, and analog is still still a project, open source project. There is a maintenance cost of that, so we were looking at maybe streamlining this some kind of way, and this was started like at that CLI point. So I was really excited when NX 16.5 came out,
Hmm.
so that with the package generator that lets you create packages that do this sort of thing with NX underneath. So,
Yes.
and as you can tell by the stars or by the thumbs up and hearts and everything, that at least the community is on board with this idea also. So we are looking at going to switch out create analog, the internals of create analog, to use like the NX package functionality underneath.
Hmm.
And that way, when you run, so it'll still be transparent though. When you run create analog, you're still going to get, an Angular project. But how we go about like constructing that underneath will be more consistent for us
Hmm.
and be less of a maintenance issue on our side, because we'll be generating it whether you're in an NX workspace or a standalone project or whatever the scenario may be. We can kind of tailor it to what that is. So that's what we'll be looking at in the future. But I did want to get some feedback from the community, because there are people out there who, for some reason, don't want to use NX, or they feel like they're going too far from the Angular ecosystem. But so we are looking at maybe having an option to do both. But which one will be the default, we'll see.
Hmm.
But there was definitely some good conversations that came out of that RFC, but mostly positive, I would say, about how we can use this to make our lives easier as the team working on analog, and be able to still create new projects with or inside and outside of NX workspaces. So there you go.
Cool. Well, let's if you're here, let's see more thumbs up over here.
We're doing we're asking for the likes, the thumbs up on RFCs. We just want all the things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm always surprised when I ask a question. People are always like, I don't want to. They're like, why should I use NX? I'm like, why not? You.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, some people are just tied to ng update. They want that whole experience, which analog caters to that today. If you do just create a regular create analog app, then you'll get an Angular CLI workspace, Angular JSON, ng update, that whole thing, if you want to go down that route.
Yeah.
But at least from my perspective, it seems like a lot of the community they use the create NX workspace option with the preset.
Yeah.
And that way you get NX migrate, you get all the stuff to be able to kind of scale up if you want to use NX in that way. So I'm definitely on board with that, because like I said, NX has been one of my go-to tools for a long time. So
Yeah. I, I one of the things that I was so excited about with this coming out was I think it's the perfect use case for what, for example, what you're trying to build here, which is a framework. Like you should be making your own CLI, Brandon, or like
no, I don't want to.
I know, but like we have like it's the NX is so much more than just a mono repo tool. It's so much more than just a task manager. It's so much more than just all these things, which makes it hard to like clearly define. But it is the perfect tool set for someone building a framework. Here's a nice, easy, extensible, generic way now of creating all the things that you need for a framework. The CLIs right there. Just alias NX to I don't know, analog or something like that. However
Yeah,
you want to do it.
when I was looking at the create package, kind of how that works, it definitely seems like, at least as far as the being able to replace the create analog with that, and have still have like the analog branding and everything, all that still seems like it would work just fine. So
Hmm.
we haven't gone down the path of creating our own like actual CLI, uh, but the but it seems like it would definitely. I don't know if NX is going to get into the like we're the CLI, we're the builder of CLIs also. I don't know if
Hmm.
they're going to get into that game too, but hey,
It's on the table. Like
if I
I think
can,
it's helpful there for folks. Like we have a nice framework there, both with what we've built for the CLI and with our generators. Like I think our
hmm
generator API is actually amazing. Like the idea of creating a simple function that's going to do your
yeah, yeah.
uh,
If
code
we had
generation.
like a analog CLI and we could just do like all the same, well, not all the same things, but like the standard stuff, like analog dev, analog generate, you know, page, for example, something like
Hmm.
that. That would definitely be enticing. But I don't know that we want to like control that much of the stack as far as having an analog CLI and having more to maintain there. Because like I said,
Yeah.
everything comes with a cost, so we have to
Mhm.
kind of balance that also with what we want to be able to build and ship.
Yeah. Scope is going to creep, right?
Yeah.
Yuri's asking, what do you mean builders of CLI, Brandon?
Oh, I mean, like, can I create my own like analog CLI that basically piggybacks off of NX generators and things like that? Under it's like NX generating the stuff underneath, but if you're looking at it from the outside, you could, for example, you could generate a new analog project and run analog dev instead of NX dev, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
So that was just what I meant by that. Or analog serve. I think dev is more probably more common. I think these days because they're like Astro Dev, and I think
Well, Veets, does Veet use Dev? I'm pretty sure it does.
it's an alias. You can just run Vite or Vite Dev, and both of them do the same thing.
Yeah.
So, but I think yeah,
Yeah. Serve is
Angular,
becoming like a very Angular specific verb now
yeah,
for these things.
yeah, it is. That's what I was just about to say. Angular is the once again like the snowflake in the everybody else is running npm start or
Yeah.
npm dev, and we're running npm start, and we're just like
Yeah.
just slightly off the path. But
I've been hanging on to this rant to keep it. We're going to go on another side quest, y'all. I'm sorry.
here we go.
I've been hanging on this rant for too long. I'm
You should have just called this Zach's takes with
yeah.
Brandon,
Text takes with Brandon.
and then like a
Yeah.
little tiny sliver of analog in the corner there.
Yeah, and it looks Alex just on the court. But okay, so I've wanted to make a YouTube video about this for a long time. Never got about it, so we're going to do it right here. But
Just hide me on the screen and just do it right now.
no,
I'm
no,
just kidding. I'm
you're
just
in
kidding.
with this, Brandon. We're Thelma and Louising this right off the canyon. But okay, so this symbol right here is the perfect example of what went wrong with Angular.
Ah, I
It
see.
is it. This is a hexagon that is purposely avoiding its purpose of a hexagon.
Mm-hmm.
A purpose of a hexagon is to like be able to honeycomb these things together so you can work easily with other tools. That's why Node uses a hexagon for its thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's because we're building these Node modules that are supposed to work with other things and work all together. Angular went out of its way to create a symbol that's not going to work with any other tools.
This
And
is
that is
very
exactly what it is.
conspiracy theory. We're going like full conspiracy theory here, but go ahead. I'm gonna let you cook.
No, no. Tell me where I'm wrong, Brandon, because
Hey,
it,
I don't know though. I don't know the origins of the Angular logo, so
yeah, yeah.
I'm just
Well, it
gonna
goes back to
roll with it.
AngularJS, right? AngularJS had a shield as well, and there was,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure what it was HTML5 and CSS3 came out at similar times. If we look those up, like
Ah,
this was when I
yes.
was first getting into web dev, so I remember, oh, that looks kind of cool because if you look at this, it's like a shield kind of deal. That was cool. Like I'm sure that's what they were going for. They were going to say like, I don't know if the hexagon was on purpose, but I think they were just going for a more stylized version of this, right? But everything about Angular and the problems it's had recently has been because of the same issue where like we can't have nice things like until you came along with AnalogJS.
I'm
But
going to
we
show
can't have
you.
nice things because of the some of the choices that were made earlier on about how, you know, oh
I
yeah.
dropped a link in the chat. You can tell me. Well, this is a trivia question for us and the live stream watchers, because I got into the well, I don't say got into this on Twitter. It's like, oh, I got us again. This link there with Jason Linksdorf, who is a fantastic person. You should definitely watch his streams on Twitch. But he fell into the same trap that a lot of other people fall into. Which logo is this? Do you know which logos this is?
What logo?
The logo on the video. Which logo is this?
That's the Angular JS one over there.
Right. But AngularJS is dead.
Yeah.
You see these other frameworks here, like and it gets even crazier. Like he thought that AngularJS was the current version and Angular
Yeah.
was no longer around.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. So this
Oh.
logo has been biting the Angular community for a long time. That's not where you were going.
Yeah.
You were on like a whole nother
I'm on a whole nother level. Like
you're on a whole nother level, but
it's just mocks me now, like knowing that I spent my early investment of my time on something like this when it was staring me in the face the entire time.
I didn't know we were picking our web technologies based on hexagons and things, but okay.
I mean, there's something symbolic about like the fact that they chose a hexagon that purposely won't fit with other ones. That's been true for some of the philosophy around it too. I think.
Zach, you know how many times I've had that thought before.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, like it's in some ways, I think that was the point. Like they were trying to make something. They were trying to make a true framework, whereas React really wasn't. And like I think actually Vue took the right stance with this, where you can just say, all right, let's just put Vue into a certain part of our app instead of saying, no, Angular is the framework. If we're going to do Angular, like you're using the CLI, you're using all this stuff. There's a lot of good things with that. Like there's a lot of good things with like having the batteries included, all of that stuff. But I don't know. I think they went too far with it.
I see what you're saying. Like I've said this before also, is like Angular is always on an island. Like you can do stuff with some of the other web frameworks that you just can't do with Angular, because like it's the gift and the curse. Like there's like a whole ecosystem for the framework that the framework gives you, but the moment you want to step outside of that box, it's like hurdle after hurdle after hurdle to try to get these things,
absolutely,
to try to build stuff on top of Angular. I mean, I've gone through the same thing with Analog and like the V integration and everything.
I'm sure, yeah.
But yeah, it like I said, it has its pluses and minuses of if you want to have that kind of stack. Then Angular is definitely good at providing you like a more comprehensive ecosystem to give you less things you have to think about. But like the moment you want to be a free thinker, as Caitlin used to say, then that's the moment then you hit the friction points when you want to try to do things get out of the box of Angular. But to the credit of the framework, they have been trying to evolve that mindset, I think, also in working with other tools and working with other people in that way. So
yeah, I agree. But it definitely shows in like the way that we don't get feat support unless you go with Brandon's project, because Brandon's awesome. he figures out feat. But like it makes us so hard to work with, where like you can't get feat support out of the box, where you can't have like these cool tools that other folks are using for SSR and SSG, because like well, no, it's Angular, so you got to do it the Angular way. You got to do it.
Yeah, that's the quote of the day, is the Angular way. You can. Well, they will give you all those things if you just stick to the Angular way, and then, like I said, you get to do it that way.
Yeah, they give you everything. The only price is your soul. So.
Well,
There we go.
they can't have that. We're gonna have to draw the line somewhere. I'll give them
Okay,
my
okay.
web dev, but we're gonna keep the rest.
Cool. All right. Well, but one thing I wanted to see. Let's drop the rants because we're running out of time here.
Oh
Because one of
man,
the things I wanted to make sure was so looking at this stuff. I don't know what this error is, dude, but it doesn't
yeah,
seem
I
to be
think it.
hurting stuff.
No,
So
I think it's you may have like a port open or not a port, a page open in your browser that kind of requested that URL or something.
okay,
Because it looked like it requested something that wasn't that we haven't. You have a page open in your browser that requested a URL that we're not serving. So that's
gotcha.
probably what that was.
So let me ask you this, because there's obviously this hello API over here.
Yeah, we
How do I
can.
hit that from my browser?
Yeah, so if you
That,
just go to the where we had the analog demo page brought up there in the browser. Yeah, if you go to localhost 40, yep. So just put slash API slash v1 slash hello on the end.
BIV1. Oh, hey, there we
So
go.
there you go. API routes, and the API routes are file system based also. So if you want to follow that same convention, if you want to follow that same convention,
No.
you can do that with the API routes too. Which I'll give a shout out to the Nitro project, which is what Angular Analog JS uses underneath for like its server engine.
Yeah, my daughter's here.
Hey,
Do you have a good time at the lake? Your dad's on a stream right now, so can I talk to you later?
No, it's when it was asked me not awake.
hey, can
Oh,
you
okay.
tell her? Can you tell her to give Analog a star while she's when she gets back to her GitHub account? Thanks, I
Hey,
appreciate it.
when you get on your GitHub account, can you give Analog a star?
Huh?
Can you give Analog a star? Yeah?
What?
She's saying what? she, we need more notoriety for Analog here. All right. But yeah, it's interesting to me like how you nest the route in here too. So
Yeah,
is this by design?
the server slash routes directory is where you can put your API routes. The V1 folder is just there provided out of the box. So, but you don't have to have the slash V1 in front. If you just wanted to have like hello as like the base route in the API. So there's more
Gotcha.
just like I said convention that you can have. Like I said, it's about giving you something out of the box that you can build faster with instead of having to set up lots of other things there. So there
Cool.
you go.
Well, I see at least how all the different pieces play in. Yeah. This
She's
is now
like,
the
look at
Avery
we
stream.
need yes, we need the meme with the guide. Look at me. I am the captain now of the of the stream. There you
Yeah,
go.
the toddler's meta framework of choice.
Toddlers love meta frameworks and they love analog too. There you go.
Yep. Cool. Well, yeah. So just this define event handler. I guess
Yeah,
this
this
is a way
is
of just defining a API handler here.
Yeah, so part of, like I said, we use Nitro underneath, and Nitro uses a package called H3, which is like a high performance HTTP request handler that you can, or that it just, so we just basically extend that out of the box that you can use to create API routes with. So, and like I said, it goes down the whole rabbit hole. H3 is a part of like an org called UnJS, and UnJS is like a big org of like these small utility packages that can work basically with any project. So we use some of those. Well, Nitro uses those, and by proxy, we use some of those there to be able to build on top of that. Because I didn't want to, when I started Analog Project, I was a project of one, and I didn't want to have to like try to rebuild everything from scratch. So that's kind of the backstory behind Nitro and H3 and a lot of those other tools that, like I said, Nux uses Nitro also. And Daniel C. Rowe is like, I think he's the lead maintainer on the Nux project. and
Yeah.
definitely gave me some help early on as far as how to put things together.
Yeah, Daniel seems really cool, and like Nux seems like exactly what you're trying to do for Angular with Analog. So that's quite cool. But yeah,
Yeah,
I guess
analog.
we'll.
Yeah, that I will throw that in there. Yeah, Nux, like I said, Nitro is and Nux, they're like right there together. And like I said, analog is, you can insert meta framework here, Nux for Angular, Next.js for Angular, Svelte Kit, Quick City. It has all the features of those same meta frameworks kind of packaged up, but with, like I said, Angular underneath, because it already has the proven component model and enterprise grade, all those fancy buzzwords that you can throw in there, but you can build stuff with there. So, oh, come on, Zach, unmute, Zach.
Y'all want to hear this?
Release the child.
Hello.
There we go.
Hello.
She can't hear you. That's the other piece of this.
We can hear them though.
I know.
I know how it goes, Zach. It's all good. We're just gonna roll with it.
It's cool.
But yes, but yeah, like I said, you can definitely join the GitHub or contribute to the project on GitHub if that's your thing. Join the Analog Discord. We also have that going. If you want to build a blog with Angular, Analog provides a really nice way to do that. Preston Lamb, who just redid his blog, redid his with Analog, and he found a lot of cool things, interesting things there. So definitely join in. And like I said, we're helping everything is built on top of Angular. So if you're in that ecosystem and you want to extend it to other stuff,
if you want to have cool stuff like all the other people.
Oh, so that's the thing. I will throw this in here, then we can decide where we're going to go from here. But yeah, Analog it's mainly about two things. Like I said, building applications and websites faster with Angular. The other thing is extending Angular to other ecosystems, right? Because you talked about it before, where with the hexagon conspiracy theory that Angular is like in this space where it doesn't work with other like ecosystems and things. But Analog is also a place to be able to extend that also, because just by Analog using Vite under the hood, it opens up many opportunities for Angular in other ecosystems, such as Astro. You can use Angular components within Astro through Analog. You can.
Oh, that's so cool.
We're deploying through, or you can use Angular components in Quick through Analog. So things
You're
like
doing the Lord's work here, Brandon. you're fixing
during Storybook. Any place you can use Vite. You can basically use Angular now with Analog. So we're bridging ecosystems, and I kind of talked about this during my NGConf talk. So we'll see when that comes out. Yes, there you go.
We've got another one here. She's just off screen.
Oh, two.
Claire, you want to come say hi?
Yes.
Say hi.
Hello. Do you have a GitHub account?
Do you have a GitHub account, Claire?
What?
Do you have a GitHub account?
What's a GitHub account?
She says, "What's a GitHub account?"
GitHub account. I think we just created our next startup, Zach. GitHub. Not to be confused with KidHub. GitHub.
GitHub.
There you
got
go.
it. Yeah, Brandon's doing anything for a star right now. So
I'm just like in full star pitch mode. We're just having fun with it. So
yeah. Well, I've got an idea for a new logo for you if you're interested. I'll tell you off stream, because I don't want to pressure you into doing more than I already have with like trying to get you on NX for your CLI.
There you go.
On stream here, but yeah.
You don't have to twist my arm with NX. So yeah. Definitely we'll talk about the logo.
Yeah. But yeah, I love a lot of this. It was interesting to me. You do mention Angular here, but one of the things that was apparent to me, your logo currently doesn't seem like I guess there's red. That's kind of the reference to Angular, but it doesn't look like Angular. And if you look at the name Analog, you wouldn't necessarily think Angular there either.
Yeah, that's true. So
is that on purpose or?
So the backstory behind the name of the project was there was another project that it's a hexagon.
Yup.
No. So there was another project that a person created, Rob Delaney. He used to work at Google. It was
Oh yeah.
his attempt to build Angular that used JSX. So it looked like JSX, but it was an Angular component.
Right.
I'll have to. I credit him in the repository also, but that was the original. That's where I got the name from. The repo is still out there. Also, we could drop that in the chat too.
Yeah.
But he created that project. It was a crazy idea, and when I was looking at like what should I call this meta framework for Angular, and I was kind of thinking of names that kind of went along with that, and it took me back to his GitHub repo, Analog, as far as the name. So I was like, okay, cool. Analog works. Let's see if the pieces are available there. So the domain was available. I went with AnalogJS on npm. All the pieces kind of lined up for AnalogJS to become a thing. So the same idea that it was a crazy idea. We're gonna see if it works. It might not, but we're gonna do it anyway. And so that's where the name originally came from. It wasn't, and it is close enough to Angular without being like a spinoff of like NGX or something like that.
Yeah.
Because my hot take is that those are not necessarily good names for projects. Your project should have its own name, its own brand, instead of being like NG dash some dumb thing, something.
It's almost like you learned from calling NGRX.
There you go. We like smashed NG and RX together.
Yeah.
This one is more of an intentional brand that has a purpose in like the Angular community, but not necessarily just tied to Angular in that way. So if I were to branch out, there could, and this is part of this is all done by V2. I could see a space where there could be analog for React, right? Like the things you mentioned earlier, being able to take a React app, server-side render, static site generate without having to add a whole bunch of stuff. There's a plugin in the Analog project that you could do that with. Like basically that Nitro integration. There's a Vite plugin that you could just drop into your React and Vite app, and you could get all that stuff for free. So in theory, you could have analog for React. You could have analog for Solid.js. You could have analog for Angular. So, but like I said, that is a broader, that's me putting my big brain, hat on, thinking about how you could use what we've built up for other spaces.
Would you consider like a micro front end kind of thing too, where you can mix and match them all, like have some React stuff with some Angular stuff?
I don't know about that. It's possible to do for sure. Because we're going to get into Brandon's dream stories here, but one thing that I've always wanted to is like MDX, but Angular components, right? Because it's another one of those things. Like MDX is a great way to author content with Markdown, that sort of thing, but we don't have something like that in Angular. We could just take an Angular component, drop it in the MDX file, and it just work. So like the next progression of that would be like an NGX format, something like that. But like I said, those are grand ideas that I don't have enough time to execute on.
Yeah, so almost like making AnalogJS, almost like it sounds very Astro-esque.
It could. I don't want to take that approach, but it could be. It's more or less like from building analog. I could see how it could be generic enough to be, like I said, all of this is kind of centered around its integration with Vite and the things that it opens up. But yeah, it could be generic in that way if you want to kind of stick with your. No, Astro is like I think the best example of this today, where you can use Astro and like bring your ecosystem. So analog could be something, in another, universe, analog could be something like that.
All right. Well, all comes down to getting Brandon the stars. So y'all know what to do. Head over to GitHub. Let's make sure we give that analog project a star.
There you go.
We'll
It's
get you trending.
an acquired taste. You gotta be in the Angular ecosystem and blah 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 blah. But like I said, I've kind of dabbled around with seeing how that could work in other areas, and I think it could work. But I think to at least execute on something like that, it would like I'd have to be working on it full time or something
For
like
sure.
that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of cool possibilities here. I think it is so awesome what you've done with Analog. I think the Vite support is so cool. Being able, like you said, I really think Analog could be the thing to take this useless hexagon and turn it into something that can, work with other things well because of, the work you've done making it work, letting it be Vite powered.
And shout out to the team. They have looked at ways of making this, like I said, making this easier for me and other people to do. So,
Which team are you talking about?
The Angular team.
Okay.
Like I think they're actively looking at ways to not be as obtuse. Maybe that's the right word for what you mean as far as not being able to work easily with others. So. I think it's an evolving thing.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, Brandon, thanks so much for your time today, coming over. Sorry again for little girls coming through, but
Hey,
we had a
good.
good time all the same. And we meandered a good bit. I got my conspiracy theories off my chest, but mainly we got a good summary of what's going on with
We got
Analog.
into hexagon, HMR sucks, Angular logo stinks. What else do we get to? RxJS is the best.
RxJS greater than Signals.
You're like meh on Signals. I think that's about it.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good stream.
Hey, we should do this again sometimes. I think
Yeah,
the people
I'd love
enjoyed it.
Man. Yeah. Well, to everyone hanging out here, awesome to see y'all. Bill, great having you chiming in the whole time. And same to you, Edition Addict and Mr. Tuber. All y'all made this fun for sure.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out another time to do this again. I don't have any other lives planned at the moment, but we can fix that. Bill, let me know. Hit up my DMs if you want to show us something with CSS or tell me why I'm wrong about Tailwind. That would be legitimately interesting to do.
There you go.
So that would be cool. But yeah, thanks for everyone for tuning in. We're gonna wrap it up there.
Cool. Thanks.
Peace.